Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk podcast post-game show. Hope you guys are having a great night. What a game. Before I get into my game notes, I do want to say this. So over the weekend, I was really dumb and I actually hurt my throat. Like talking right now actually like hurts like crazy. So what I did, you guys can make fun of me in the chat if you want, is I was eating some Ruffles and I didn't completely bite the chip and it got lodged in my throat. So my throat right now feels like glass. Every time I talk, it feels like someone's stabbing it. But I'm going to push through this podcast because I feel that you guys deserve a podcast at the end of the day. So we're just going to push through this podcast and um, I'm going to continue to keep gargling salt water and just kind of recovering this sore ass throat that I do have. But I do appreciate you guys tapping on in every game throughout the season. I mean, we're 40 games in and it seems like we have, 10, 15 messages just waiting for these, post-game podcasts. But let's get into the quarters, you guys. I thought this was a game where the Pistons came out with a lot of energy. They just seemed like the team in the first quarter that just wanted it more. And when you looked at the score, it's not like, the Knicks were down 20, but the Pistons' energy was just popping out on the screen. Really like the way that they came out. JD did have foul trouble. He had two quick fouls. He had one on Karl Anthony Towns and one on Jaylen Brunson. The thing with the Knicks is they are just free throw merchants. They're a team that any little contact, they're probably going to get the benefit of the doubt, especially playing at home in Madison Square Garden. So Jaylen Duran did get two quick fouls. Isaiah Stewart came in and Stu in the first quarter, you guys, he brought so much grit, energy, hustle. He was protecting the paint, had a nice block against Karl Anthony Towns, in which he injured his thumb trying to dunk on Stu. Stu had just some nice, hustle plays around the basket, had an and one where he got fouled. Just really liked the energy that we got from Isaiah Stewart throughout the night. Just being the backup center on this team off the bench is just the perfect role and the perfect niche for him. I'm really happy with just Isaiah Stewart as a rotational big for this team. And I'm just really happy that he had a great game in his home state. Stu's from Rochester, New York. He was talking with Stephon Marbury. He was talking a lot of shit to him. Patrick Ewing and him, caught up before the game, had a good conversation. But, great to see Stu, have a good game in his home state. Got to talk about Malik Beasley. I thought he was really crucial in tonight's game, especially in the fourth quarter. But he came in and had, 12 straight points early on for the Pistons. End of the first quarter, 37-26, Detroit Pistons. Heading into the second quarter, I didn't expect the Knicks just to lay down because they are a very good basketball team. They come out 7-0 run. Campaign was a big reason why that they went on that little run. And I felt like the second quarter for the Pistons was probably their worst quarter of this game. The turnovers really killed them. The Knicks were really, forcing the Pistons to just turn the ball over. And the Pistons did lose their lead. The Knicks had a 63-59 lead heading into halftime. But something about Cade Cunningham over the past couple of games is he's been coming out of halftime so aggressive, you guys. Cade came out of halftime, and the basket probably looked 15 feet to him. It seemed like everything was going in, mid-range, three, floaters, post work. It didn't matter. The Knicks threw OG Anunoby at him, Jaylen Brunson, Cat. It didn't matter. It did not matter who was in front of Cade Cunningham. He came out with 20 points in the third quarter alone. I thought the defense picked up coming out of halftime. They brought more energy. The Knicks just could not keep up with the Pistons' intensity throughout the game, I thought. And you have to tip your cap to Marcus Sasser. I thought Marcus Sasser, you may look at the box score, he only had 7 points, but I thought the way he played, the way he defended, setting up his teammates, I thought he had a really good game tonight. And I don't think it shouldn't go unnoticed. Asar Thompson, too. Asar Thompson was in double figures as well. And you saw a lot of the defensive switching with Asar. He guarded multiple players on the Knicks, from Cat to Jaylen Brunson, mostly Jaylen Brunson throughout the night. But I was really impressed with Asar Thompson tonight. I think you're seeing, when you have Asar Thompson in the lineup, this team can be so good. This team can just be a headache for opposing teams to go against. Asar Thompson really helps this team and adds a whole nother layer of what they can be defensively. Pistons end the third quarter with a 95-90 lead. Going into the fourth quarter, Cade was looking to close this basketball game. He was still hot, from the third quarter going into the fourth. He's looking like a superstar, you guys. He's looking like a franchise guy. Like, he has had so many games this year where he's just taken over. He's taken over these second halves. And it's great to see if you're a Detroit Piston fan, because you just locked this guy up. You gave him a rookie max contract extension to be the guy, and he's playing like the guy. I was so impressed with Cade in the fourth quarter. Duran obviously fouled out against Jaylen Brunson, which I didn't really agree with the call. I didn't really think Jaylen Duran did a whole lot to, garner a sixth foul call against him. But Jaylen Brunson is a free throw merchant. He's looking for contact, and that's exactly what he did. Overall, JD's got to be a little bit careful with where his hand placement is. Like, he needs to keep his hands a little bit higher up and not low with these guards, because the guards are just going to foul bait and get him into foul trouble. I noticed that several times throughout the game with him, is his hands were just like in the shooting pocket of where a lot of these players on the Knicks like to get their shots. But that's nitpicking at the end of the day. We're not going to nitpick. This is a great win. Malik Beasley. 2 huge 3-point shots from Malik Beasley. Iced the game, shimmied, blew a kiss to the New York Knicks, telling them bye-bye. Pistons win 124-119. That was just a game where I felt really confident that we were going to win. I know a lot of people saw the Knicks like, yeah, that's going to be a tough game. I don't know if the Pistons can go into MSG with a basically healthy New York Knicks and beat them. But Cade did his thing. Malik did his thing. Asar did his thing. I think everyone that played tonight made an impact and made a difference. Pistons are now 2 games above 500. We're 40 games into the season, 21-19. This is looking like a team, you guys, that is going to be competing for 7, 6, maybe 5 seeds. Who knows? You have the Pacers and the Suns this week, 2 teams that they've already beaten. I think if you're a Piston fan, you should feel very confident and very happy with this basketball team at the end of the day. I'm going to take a short break, take a sip of water, and I'll answer a couple Q&A questions, you guys. I don't know if I can do a whole 30-minute podcast. I'll try, but I'm just going to take a quick sip of water, and we'll come back right after this quick commercial break. Okay, you guys, we're back. I'm going to answer a few Q&A questions, and then after that, I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast and just rest up. If you guys didn't hear at the top of the podcast, I was a dumbass, ate a potato chip, didn't chew it all the way, and it scratched the crap out of my throat. It's just so raw right now, but I'm forcing myself to do this podcast because I feel like you guys deserve it, and I know you guys look forward to these. I want to get to Jay Hart. Just a day one, such a loyal Detroit Piston fan, left a comment, and he said, "I could cry right now, fellas. This team is some true steppers and stands on business. Shout out to JB and F the Knicks. Ron Tizzle can be an absolute share the floor together. Outstanding defense." Yeah, man. Like if you're a Piston fan and you've been through this rebuild when they started in 2020, and you're seeing the draft picks. We'll talk about Cade. Like Cade is just taking over games. He's only 23 years old, hasn't even hit his prime yet, and he's going into Madison Square Garden and beating a healthy New York Knicks team, dropping 30 points in the second half. And mind you, this was with playing with 4 fouls. Like Cade was going for steals with 4 fouls. Like he didn't care. Cade was just going to put this team on his back and just will a win. And I think you should be proud of this team. Anyone watching the Detroit Pistons, I think on a night-to-night basis, I think we feel pretty confident. At least this team will compete. Now we can start having conversations. How deep can this team go? Like, what seeding are they going to get? We're 40 games in. We're almost to the halfway point of the season. I think we have a pretty good sample size of what this basketball team is going to be. And, since that Utah Jazz game, they've really picked it up. They've really played good basketball. I mean, they were forcing the Knicks to make bad, sloppy turnovers. I mean, how many times have we come up here and talked about the Detroit Pistons turnovers for the first, 25, 30 games of the season? I think these players are adapting very well to JB Bickerstaff's new system, and they're getting more comfortable in playing within his system, and the defense has been better. The turnovers have been better. This team is just playing really good ball at the end of the day, and it's a team that you guys should be absolutely proud of. I have a comment from Wake Up. Cade is the best point guard in the East. I know Amari St. Kofa said that to Tim Hardaway Jr. When we played the Raptors, and he corrected him and said, no, the NBA. You could have conversations, and this might sound like a hot take because it's a Pistons podcast, but Cade's playing like a top 10 player in the NBA, you guys. You can compile a list, but like what he just did in MSG, that's what superstars do. He dropped 30 points in the second half. Like, let me repeat that, 30 points in the second half, and willed his team to a big statement win. Because if you look, the New York Knicks are above the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference standings. Like, a lot of people have the Knicks as penciled on in as Eastern Conference favorites with all the star power that they have. And you just went in there and basically willed your way to another victory in MSG. That's 2 wins in Madison Square Garden, and Cade has had his hand in both of those games where he's dropped over 30 plus points in the Garden. So it's good to see that the Pistons are gelling, and it's so cool to see Cade Cunningham, be more confident, take over, and he's starting to get national recognition from ESPN, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report, and other publications. It's not just Detroit podcasts like myself, talking of like how good Cade Cunningham can be. Cade Cunningham's going to be an all-star this year. Cade Cunningham is going to be in possibly all NBA discussions, just the way he's playing right now. He's just playing at a whole nother level. I have a comment from Wadsworth. How does Brunson talk shit but don't guard his position in the game, though? That's a great question. Probably because he's a poor defender, but yeah, he does talk a lot of crap. for not being able to guard opposing guards. But yeah, man, I'm not really sure. Brunson frustrates me. Like, he's a good player, but like the way he just foul baits and looks for fouls and hunts for fouls, like it's frustrating to watch. Like, just like a basketball fan, like taking my Piston hat off. Like, Jaylen Brunson, honestly, like bugs me. He literally bugs me. Like, watching him, I'm like, come on, man, just play ball. Like why are you like shoulder tackling your way to try to get a free throw? Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, I don't understand why, Jaylen Brunson talks so much shit. He doesn't guard opposing point guards or even shooting guards for that matter. They have to hide him. Got a comment from the OG Dominique Davis. Hope you're doing well, man. Stu was giving Carl Anthony Town fits. The one thing with Cat, if you notice, if you guys watch Knicks games or you watched him in Minnesota, Cat does not like physical play. And Isaiah Stewart is a very physical center. And Stu forced Cat to basically hurt his finger really, really bad. He was grabbing at his finger all game. And it was because of Stu's toughness and his ability to get up in his face and not allow him to get any easy baskets. I think you have to just tip your cap to Isaiah Stewart, just the way he was playing. The way he was switching defensively. He had a really good possession late in the fourth quarter where he was switching on the Jaylen Brunson, forcing him to take a really tough fall away jumper. But yeah, Isaiah Stewart tonight was amazing. I think you have to, give credit to him in this Pistons victory as well, of just, coming off the bench, bringing in good minutes for the Pistons and like really willing the second unit while Jaylen Duran was in foul trouble, of being out there and defending multiple positions. I have a comment from Mr. My City. That's the Cade I've been waiting to see. Attack mode. Love to see it. He had a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, I would have a chip on my shoulder too if I was Cade. The Pistons in the stretch when the media had posted All-Star voting, Cade was in 6th place for All-Star voting. And the Pistons went 5-0 during that stretch when they were on the win streak last week. The All-Star voting came out last week that Cade had dipped from 6th to 7th place. I don't understand how he slips in All-Star voting. Obviously, I get it's fan voting. It's a popularity contest. But you just went in Madison Square Garden, went up against a guard that a lot of people, claim to be one of the top guards in the Eastern Conference, and you outperformed them, and they're labeled a quote-unquote super team. And like, Cade has had a chip on his shoulder, I would say, per the last like 15 games. Like, I never used to see him like headbutt. Like, he headbutted a basketball against the Raptors after he got an and one. He's been like headbutting stuff, and I've never seen him that aggressive. Someone called him CTE Cade because he's just been playing like out of his mind. I don't want that nickname to stick. Please don't let it stick, you guys, because CTE is nothing to joke about. But I agree with you, Mr. My City. The attack mode, the aggressiveness out of Cade Cunningham. If you're a Piston fan, you love to see him just keep attacking and be relentless, and don't give that defense any type of opportunity to even get back into this game. The comment from Case Cracked: as much as Duran was a liability in the first half of the season, he's made some strides and his work ethic has drastically improved. That alone has helped. I noticed what they started doing, Case Cracked, is they started putting Jaylen Duran in these blitzing opportunities where he's playing more on the perimeter and he's taking gambles. And I think that's helped him defensively, throughout this stretch. I think the defense has improved the past two and a half weeks with him. It's just the fouling where I think he'll get better at it the more film he watches. Because like nights like tonight, when you have to guard Cat on the perimeter, that's a big ask. Like stretch fives. Like if you guys remember the first time the Pistons played the Knicks at LCA, the Knicks absolutely torched the Pistons, and that's not the same Pistons team that they saw tonight. This is a completely different Pistons team the New York Knicks saw at LCA when they beat us by 30, 40 points. And I think Duran has gotten better, and he's taking strides. And JB and this coaching staff have really helped him understand that we don't want you standing in the paint at all times. When there's a stretch five like a cat, you have to be more on the perimeter. And I think just his activeness and his attention to detail has been much better. I think he finished with 10 points tonight. Overall, Jaylen Duran, I think we've been very crucial on, but I will give him credit when it's due. And I said it yesterday on the podcast with Pistons Thoughts that I felt that Jaylen Duran has like really stepped up and he's gotten better. I think sometimes we forget he's only 21 years old. And the coaching last year wasn't coaching whatsoever. There was no accountability with Monty Williams and Jaylen Duran. He just let him do whatever the hell he wanted. JB Bickerstaff and this new coaching staff is, holding every player on this team accountable and coaching them up. And you heard Jaylen Duran last week saying like he loves playing for JB Bickerstaff. He loves getting coached up by the assistant coaches because these guys are really investing into them and they care about them as players. And that's something I don't really think we had last year is a coaching staff really locked in with the player development. Because I think sometimes we forget, like this is the fourth youngest team in the NBA, and they're taking huge strides. They're on pace for 43 wins. Like, what? 43 wins? I don't think a lot of people had this team winning 40 games, and if they did, kudos to them. But I didn't see too many people in the summer saying this is a 40-win basketball team. I just didn't. If you guys want to show me someone that you said they're going to win 40 games, I'll give him a round of applause. I didn't see it from this team, but love what JB has instilled with this young group. I have a comment from Devon. Can you please tell these fans to stop with these go out and get someone talks? A small trade is needed, but keep the team together. Playoffs. Devon, with the time of year, we're in January. I don't think that the talks will stop. I guarantee you I can scroll on Twitter right now and someone wants a Brandon Ingram, someone wants a Zach LaVine, a Michael Porter Jr., right? I think it's just the time of year. It'll be really interesting to see what Trajan does do at the deadline, what he addresses, and what the Pistons being buyers actually means. I do agree with you. I don't think they have to go out and try to get that big fish or that superstar. I think, if you can go out and try to upgrade this roster without disrupting what you have with this core with Cade, Duran, Ivy, Asar, Ron, then yeah, you make that move. But I think sometimes during this time of year, I think Pistons fans kind of get lost in that. They go to 2K and try to make like these like dream trade scenarios go through when we know in real life a lot of these trades just won't happen. But it'll be really interesting to see what Trajan does do. I have a super chat from Burks44. Appreciate you, man. Go to a 9-man rotation, split Fontecchio's minutes between Sasser and Beasley, and let's see what we have with Sasser. I'll do you one better. I think with Fontecchio, he's kind of playing in between small forward, power forward. I'd start giving Bobby Klitman some garbage time at the end of these games. Start giving him a little bit more playing time. He had a pretty decent game with the Motor City Cruise on Sunday at 14.7 rebounds and looked really great. I'd start to give Bobby more looks personally because I think he's earned it, and that's a draft pick that the Pistons invested 4 years into. They gave him a 4-year contract extension when they drafted him, and usually you don't see second-round draft picks. You get 4-year extensions, that kind of tells you what this organization believes, what Bobby Klitman could possibly be. I honestly think, like, with Bobby, I cover it for you guys that don't know. I covered the Motor City Cruise for 2 years. It was part of my job. I worked at the Prep Sports, and they broadcasted all the Cruise games. I've watched Bobby since he's been in the Cruise. He struggled at times, but I think with playing time, playing with the Pistons and NBA group, no shot at the Motor City Cruise of the G League, I think there's a lot there with him where there's playmaking ability, there's perimeter ability, there's defensive potential. It's still really raw, but I think with him, you invested 4 years. There's something there. I don't know what's going on with Simone Fontecchio right now. I really don't. I know some people had mentioned that he had surgery, this past off season, and his foot could be bothering him. I don't know that to be the case because I'm not around the team. I'm not a reporter. I'm just a fan like you guys. But I think if, Tex keeps having these games where there's a lot of mental lapses where he puts the ball on the floor and it almost turns into a turnover like every time. Your JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons, like, you should explore to see what a Bobby Klitman could do with this team. Maybe they think he's not ready. Maybe they think he's still raw. He needs more refinement in the G League. If that's the case, sure. Like, let him develop in the G League and have a red shirt year. If you feel Bobby's not ready, if JB and the coaching staff feels that he's not ready, I can understand it. Me personally, watching the games, I think Bobby is ready. But the way I would do it is I would bring him in very slowly, kind of like how JB did with Ron Holland. He didn't go out and start Ron Holland immediately. He gradually, gave him 6 minutes a game, 8 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game, 19 minutes a game. I think that's what you could do with Bobby. Maybe kind of split the time with him and Tech and see what's there. Because I think Bobby could personally be your power forward of the future if you give him more opportunities and more looks. But I really don't know what's going on with Simone Fontecchio whatsoever. I really don't. But I'm wishing him well because he was so good last year for this team. Obviously, he had surgery this summer, and I think it's still bothering him. He had foot surgery, but I hope he does pick it up because I think at the end of the day, you guys, I don't like to see any player on this team struggle. He just seemed frustrated tonight. There's a couple foul calls he just was not a fan of. Had multiple turnovers. The ball's not falling. I don't like to see, players going through it. And we're trashing on them because they're making, mental lapses and mistakes. Because at the end of the day, I think sometimes we forget that these guys are human beings too. Tech is probably frustrated more than anyone. But I would say for me, as just a Piston fan like you guys, give Bobby Klitman some time because I think he's ready. I think the calf is good. I think he's rehabbed enough. You drafted him. You invested. You traded up to get him. Like, why not give him some playing time? But I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast, you guys. My throat is just on fire. I appreciate all 171 of you guys in here. If you guys could, it does help out the YouTube channel a lot to hit a like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm push out Detroit Pistons content to each and every one of you watching live right now. And if you are an audio listener, make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you guys get your podcast. I'm going to rest up this throat, you guys, because we have the Pacers this week, and then we have the Suns this week. And I'm going to try to do a podcast on Sunday, like I always do for you guys. But Pistons win tonight. Huge win in Madison Square Garden. The final score was 124-119. Cade Cunningham had over 35 points again in the Garden. But see you guys later this week. Take care and have a good night. Go Pistons.